Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Kramer, joined by my co-host, Daniel Bobo Carlin. And this is episode 99. Next week, episode 100. Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fine. And you know who wants to give an early congratulations on us getting to 100 shows? My mom!
Oh my God. Yes. And we're off and running, man. Yeah, I can't believe it. 100 episodes, man. It's crazy. It doesn't feel like we've been doing it for that long, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like, but just time goes by quick. I mean, I'm seeing, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, the time over the course, not just our show, but I'm seeing players get into the various sports Hall of Fames that I remember as rookies. You know how weird that felt when I saw an example. He's probably going to be. He's not eligible for Hall of Fame yet, but it's inevitable. He's going to be, as far as I see, definitely should be in the Hall of Fame. But anyway, when I was at Eli Manning's number retirement, the day they retired Eli Manning's number, I'm at that Giants game that day, right? Seeing that number retirement ceremony made me feel like, where did the time go? Because it felt like yesterday I was watching the NFL draft I believe that was 2004. I'm watching the NFL draft in my living room, and I'm seeing the announcement, like I'm seeing the Eli Manning being introduced to the Giants. It seems like yesterday that happened, and it's like the time's gone by quick. Seeing like a guy you remember as a rookie have his number retired like that. That's weird. And then I'm seeing like players like Piazza in the Hall of Fame, and you freaking like remember my high school days, and that jersey still fits me. And there's times you may have seen me wear that jersey on the show, that the black Mets jersey, the Piazza jersey, or the I just like to call it the throwback. It felt weird seeing him in the Hall of Fame because it felt like yesterday, like a player that was freaking part of my high school days. Like,
yeah.
Like his number would be. See, I'm seeing his number retired, so it's like weird seeing that.
Well, Dan, we're at that age now where we're seeing all the guys that we grew up with, now become legendary status, eligible, like having their numbers retired, like you said about Eli, and like we saw with Piazza, and seeing all these guys become Hall of Fame eligible. It's funny you bring this up too right off the bat. I was going to save it for later in the show, but let's just jump right into it right now. If you haven't seen the MLB Hall of Fame election results came out the other day, and we now know the 2024 MLB Hall of Fame class, and it's Adrian Beltre, Todd Helton, and Joe Mauer. Now, what do you think of this class, Dan? I mean, definitely a pretty good class so far, right?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good, but I'm saying if you're going to elect, but once again, just like I said with Scott Rowland, if you're going to put Todd Helton in the Hall of Fame, now I kind of do agree. Maybe he does have good numbers, even though he did play in Colorado with that thin air. But I have to give credit. He was a good player anyway. I feel like even without the thin air. But I feel like if you're going to put like players like Todd Helton in the Hall of Fame, then put Keith in the Hall of Fame already. Put him in the Hall of Fame. I feel it's one of the biggest injustices that Keith Hernandez is not in the Hall of Fame. I can tell you this.
Yeah.
I can tell you this. I know this is something I think that Jerry Seinfeld should have this honor reserved for him. I made the joke, Jerry, drive him to the Cooperstown if he gets inducted. We will personally volunteer to drive Keith to the Hall to Cooperstown if he was okay with that. If he got inducted to the Hall of Fame, we would personally take the honor if he was okay with that. We're just putting it right there on the table, Keith. If you see this, if you get into the Hall of Fame, and Howie Rose agrees he needs to be in the Hall of Fame, we would gladly volunteer to drive you to Cooperstown for the ceremony.
The offer is out there, Keith. Absolutely, Dan. I totally agree with you on that. And you know what? You really just read my mind too, because when we look at this Hall of Fame ballot, right? When we break it down, Adrian Beltre is a slam dunk. Adrian Beltre, 3,000 plus hits, great defender. That's a guy that is a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. Joe Mauer, in my opinion, with the numbers as a catcher, I know they list him as a catcher first baseman, but let's be honest, most of Joe Mauer's numbers were done as a catcher, so you have to give him the benefit of that doubt too. And I don't begrudge him going in the Hall of Fame one bit. Now, Todd Helton too, I agree with you. His numbers are borderline. The guy had 2,500 hits, but let's be honest, he was a first baseman. And the fact that he had a 316 batting average, that is great and very impressive. But like you said, he played in Colorado, so his batting average was definitely inflated a little bit. And for only 316 home runs to be playing all of your career in Colorado seems a bit light too. I mean, not to mention the guy was only a 5-time All-Star. So, yeah, I mean, look, if you're going to make him a Hall of Famer, and I'm not saying that Todd Helton is completely undeserving. If it was up to me, I wouldn't have him in the Hall of Fame. But also, if you're going to have guys like Harold Baines in the Hall of Fame, that opens the door for guys like Todd Helton,
Yeah, exactly. Also, I got to say about three major snubs that need to be in the Hall of Fame next year. Need to be. One is I gotta mention, of course, Billy Wagner. I feel like for a while it's like we thought it was kind of like wondering if it was a good idea bringing, there was a debate about closers getting into the Hall of Fame, but then when people saw like how dominant a guy like Mariano Rivera was, then we realized, yeah, I guess these closers deserve that kind of credit and that honor. And then once that happened, we knew that you might induct Lee Smith and then Trevor Hoffman, they got inducted. But then I feel like if those guys were pretty much closers most of their career, the bulk of their career, Billy Wagner was definitely was he was a great closer. I actually talked to him a little. I talked to him a little bit, and I thought it was really great in the panel hearing him talk about career. Man, how could you not have a lot of respect for this guy who actually sort of had an injury young in his life, and he just became as a kid was a lefty, injured him, had an injury, but decided to just power through and not quit and realize, you know what, he could just switch to. He figured he could probably somehow figure out how to switch to being a lefty, and it worked out very well. A fine career, and another one who should be definitely in the Hall of Fame.
Did actually before you move on, I'd like to just interject my opinion on Billy Wagner real quick, and I think Billy Wagner was a fine player. I like Billy Wagner. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I think Billy Wagner was a very good regular season pitcher, but let's not forget that a lot of the thing that separated guys like Mariano Rivera, and even Trevor Hoffman outside of a couple of games in the playoffs was their playoff resume. You know what I mean? And even a guy like Curt Schilling, I feel like his candidacy should be revived for what he did in the postseason. Billy Wagner was not a big game pitcher. I like Billy Wagner. He compiled a lot of good regular season stats, but in my opinion, he's a very good player, but not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, all right. But, well, also, yeah, I definitely do agree about the Curt Schilling thing. The guy was a great pitcher, and he was money in the big spots and high pressure situations. I mean, I'm shocked he isn't in the Hall of Fame. Another one that said that about this year's ballot, I'm surprised Carlos Beltran didn't get it. That guy was. I mean, we all. I mean, I know a lot of us Met fans are probably still upset about that one at bat, but if you take away that one little at bat in Game 7 of the 2006 NLCS, Carlos Beltran was a great player. That he was a great hitter, and he was just a great defender. I feel like
Especially as a
just
switch hitter. That definitely
yeah,
helps his case too, being a switch hitter.
gets the switch hitter, and I just feel like he just also just kind of had that sort of veteran leadership on the teams he played for. I feel like he was a big factor in that 2006 run. That those years when the Mets were contenders during this time. I feel like he played a big role in that, and I feel like it rubbed off on the other players that were on that team. I feel like he definitely deserves to do that, and I feel like I don't know what decision he would make. What had he would make a decision to where he probably, because he had, I guess, maybe a lot of bulk numbers with the Mets, even though he did win a championship with the Astros. He could easily go with just a blank hat, but if he wanted to choose the Mets, I would have no problem with that decision. And if the Mets kind of wanted to retire at 15, I would have no problem with that. I definitely feel like that. The Mets fans need to give him a lot of credit. He was definitely one of the greatest Mets of all time.
He gets killed for that one at bat, and that's not fair.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So he definitely needs to be there. Another snub, and I forget this. I know Bartolo Colon didn't get it, but is he still eligible on next year's ballot? Did he get enough votes?
I'm not sure. I didn't see him on there. I know the lowest one that I noticed was David Wright at 6.
Yeah, because I saw Bartolo got a number. He definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Bartolo, that guy just he pitched for a long time, and that guy just even into he was pitching into his 40s, and he was getting a job done even in his 40s.
I like Bartolo, but he's got like a 4 ERA in his career,
Yeah, but I kind of feel like that's maybe borderline question mark. Another one I feel like maybe could be borderline, but I feel like definitely was a great hitter. I feel like Gary Sheffield he definitely put up some great numbers as a ball player.
Sheffield too, but the only thing holding him back for all those years, was the steroid allegations. That was, otherwise he should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah. That definitely another one. I think that was probably, but when I'm looking at the people here, borderline. I feel like Andrew Jones might be borderline because I feel like I don't know if he really put up the numbers or maybe the longevity, but I know during some of the bulk of his career he was a good all around player, and definitely played a factor into those. As much as I hate the Braves and hated losing to them during those years, he was a big factor in one of the longest consecutive streaks of a team making the playoffs in sports. He was a big factor. Andrew Jones was a really big factor. I feel a big factor in that, into the Braves having that long streak. When you look
how many
back
times?
At it, it's definitely.
Yeah, dude. How many times did the Mets hit a shallow fly ball to center field where you'd think, okay, this thing's gonna fall in, only for Andrew Jones to snag it at the last second?
Yeah, exactly. I could tell you how many times I was maybe Chris, that reaction, you're thinking, and then you think it's gonna fall in, and you're about to jump out of your seat, and then it just it's going again. I gotta tell you that. So I remember that. Another one. I feel like that might be. I feel like maybe held back maybe a little bit, maybe by the Hall of Fame committee for his maybe there was maybe some steroid allegations, especially during his time. I feel like during the times he was with the Dodgers, he got caught twice. Manny Ramirez, but I definitely am surprised Manny Ramirez's number hasn't been retired by the Red Sox, because I feel like
Yeah.
if you look, yeah, that one doesn't surprise, that one surprised me, because I feel like if you look at the Red Sox, their history, especially with those years, I feel it was years leading up to that moment that they
Mhm.
finally broke a long drought. I mean, Manny Ramirez was a big factor in that. I'm
That's a
surprised.
good
I'm
point,
surprised.
actually. Like
Yeah,
I can understand that the Hall of Fame not putting him in because the Hall of Fame has these steroid rules and everything. But for the Red Sox, why would you care about that stuff? He had all these great moments for them, right? So you'd think that's a good point. That I'm also surprised they haven't retired his number yet.
yeah. I'm surprised at that. I mean, you still mention the Red Sox fans, Manny Ramirez, and they speak highly of him.
Yeah.
I just went to the Red Sox. There was at one of my old jobs. There was a Red Sox fan, right? And what happened was I was opening a pack of baseball cards, and I came across a 2000. And I don't know. I was gifted like a pack, like assorted from a couple of years. I came across a 2004 Manny Ramirez card. I gave that card to a Red Sox fan, Red Sox fan, and that Red Sox fan was the the look on that Red Sox fan eyes, like her eyes was like lighting up with like nostalgia about that season.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
you
like
could
that
really
that's
trace that when Manny Ramirez was a free agent in 2000, and there were rumors that he was going to sign with the Yankees because you remember he's from the Bronx, and you could really trace the end of the Yankee dynasty and the beginning of the Red Sox ending that curse and then winning a couple of more championships after that. The beginning of that was Manny Ramirez signing with the Red Sox in 2000, right?
yeah. I just feel like that's such a big thing that I'm surprised hasn't had that honor. Another one I feel like maybe could be borderline Hall of Fame. I feel like you could argue a case for him being in the Hall of Fame and not being in the Hall of Fame. I feel that probably I wouldn't mind it if he got inducted. Andy Pettit. I mean, if it wasn't for the steroid thing, if it wasn't for
Mm-hmm.
the steroid thing, I think
Yeah,
Andy
yeah,
Pettit would have probably been in the whole probably would have been in the Hall of Fame, because that guy, he was he's one of the guys that you look at that was part of that core four that was a part of that entire Yankee dynasty. Those championships in 96, 98, 99, 2000, and 2009. Andy Pettit's part of those four that were on all those championship teams that I mentioned.
yeah. And that there's one other interesting fact about Andy Pettit's candidacy, right? So Andy
Yeah.
Pettit in his career is 256 and 153. He's 103 games over 500. Every other pitcher in the history of baseball that is 100 games over 500 or more is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so that's like if he didn't really do that steroid thing, he there would have been it would have been another one that would have made me feel old, because as much as I dislike the Yankees and stuff, that was he is if people talk to me about the players like years from now, if like the younger generation asks me about the player, how we maybe asked the older generation about the players that they knew and stuff, about what that was like, he'd be one of the names that people would be asking you about. Like, he'd be one of the names I'd be mentioning when people would be asking me, like, oh yeah, what were some of the big the big star athletes from around your time, your youth, that you remember? He'd be one of the names I would mention.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. Andy Pettit, I think he's a borderline candidate, but man, he's got a lot of stuff in his favor, no doubt about it. So you really couldn't argue if he didn't make it. But before we move on from baseball, though, I also wanted to take a quick look at the hot stove, man, and I continue to be frustrated by the Mets, lack of movement on the free agent market, where okay, they signed Manea and they got a couple of other low key guys, but you see guys here that could really help this team. We've heard the Mets need bullpen help, right? From the GM, I mean, not the GM, I'm sorry. He's the president of baseball operations, David Stern. We've heard from him that they need bullpen help and they need a DH. And Aroldis Chapman goes to the Pirates, a guy who the Mets were rumored to be in on. Rhys Hoskins goes to the Brewers, another guy who the Mets are rumored to be in on. What are they doing, man? What's the plan for this season?
I just have no idea, and I feel like these are two names that they missed out on. Chapman, I kind of debated on if the Mets should have went after him because I just feel like he just doesn't. He just from what I've seen when he was with the Yankees, which I feel is like, I guess maybe a comparable, similar high pressure team playing for. I just kind of feel like he was kind of not cut out to like pitch in a high pressure market like New York. I feel like, but Hopkins,
Yeah, but
I feel like we should have went after him.
yeah, yeah, I would have liked to see Hoskins. Big right-handed bat, no doubt about that. But Chapman, like you said, he's done it before with the Yankees, so you would have thought that he would have been able to replicate that with the Mets, but I guess that was not in the works. Unfortunately, he goes to Pittsburgh and becomes a trade chip at the deadline. If the Pirates are having a crappy season, which all signs point to yes, maybe he'll be in the plans for another team down the line. I don't think the way this Mets offseason is playing out right now, I don't think they're going to be making any big time deals for a playoff run at the trade deadline. But hopefully, I'm wrong on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I feel like there's a possibility they will, but like I said this a couple of weeks earlier that I can't see them going after a player that's going to be a 1 year rental. They're going to want to go after someone that's in the if they're going to give up whatever amount of prospects, whatever, they're not going to want to do it for a rental. I'm getting the consensus. They'll do it for someone who has maybe another year or two in team control. I feel like that's
That's a good point.
that's gonna place a factor. I've gotten the consensus from interviews and from when I've seen Steve Cohen speak they don't want they're not going to go for a rental, but if there's like a player that they want that like has team control, then that might sway things in a decision to go make that trade. I feel like so it's going to be a lot to look at this year, where the Mets are at the trade deadline, and also where some of the other teams where they are at the deadline. So I feel like this is gonna be one of those it's gonna be one of those things that we're just gonna have to wait to see where we are at the half to really get a consensus of this team, because I feel like there is that now, like there is that additional wild card that now there's like 3 wild cards, so that's just it's a game changer. I feel
It
like.
is, and in a lot of ways too, because the thing that sucks about that extra wild card too is that if you are a contending team, it's a little bit harder to take, the sellable players off the crappier teams, because a lot of these crappier teams can convince themselves that they're still in the playoff race. You know what I mean? So it kind of depletes the
Yeah,
market a little bit.
yes, I kind of feel like the trade market maybe sometimes I feel like isn't going to be always as active as we've seen in the past, because there's
Mhm.
more teams in contention. On one hand, when they came up with that third wild card, I thinking Rob Manfred, the people that were in charge were thinking more money, and team owners were thinking more money. If the team's in contention, they're thinking the longer the team's in contention, the more tickets the more they can sell tickets, and TV revenue. Even though I can't really say how the team's doing affects TV revenue, because I feel like the high viewer numbers is always in the local market. It's always consistent, because it doesn't take a lot to turn on a TV and watch the game. It's not like you're spending money and stuff to go to the game. So it's a big difference in terms of revenue from actually attending the game and TV viewership numbers.
That's a
But
good point.
the big thing is the revenue of the teams attending the games is a it's probably a big thing, and even revenues around the local markets of the teams, like because all the businesses that that are making money around when these teams are in the playoffs. There there's bars that are getting a lot of money. A lot of these bars in the local markets, they pretty much want every playoff series to go into a game 7 because they know they get the maximum amount of revenue they could get, and pretty much the way these networks will really they make money off of like a broadcast, let's say an event like the World Series. They're not like really like rooting, but they do kind of admit. I do kind of admit that they do kind of want to. They kind of do secretly want the World Series to go to 7 games because they know they will get the most they could possibly get if like the World Series goes to 7 games in terms of revenue. Game
Oh yeah,
7 means the most revenue they could get. So they want
yeah,
that.
no doubt about it. And they also want like the bigger market teams and everything like that too. And that leads us right into our next topic of the NFC Championship game and the AFC Championship game. Championship Sunday going down this upcoming Sunday, and we got a couple of really big games on hand, Dan, with a couple of big city lucrative markets coming into play here. We'll start off with the NFC Championship game, Dan. What do you think about the Lions and 49ers? Detroit appearing in its first NFC Championship game since Barry Sanders and the 1991 team lost to the Washington Redskins.
I feel like this game's going to be Detroit winning in a high-scoring game. Just my gut feeling seems like Detroit's just they've shown up with low expectations, and they seem to have this. I feel like this Cinderella run reminiscent of the 2007 New York Giants. I feel like feel like they're gonna. I just feel like it's that kind of a run.
Yeah, I mean, not a bad comp, man. I mean, that '07 Giants run is pretty legendary. The only difference being that the Giants were doing it on the road. But, I mean, you got to give credit. Detroit, if they're going to get it done, is going to have to get it done in San Francisco. Their first 2 games were home games, this being the NFC Championship game. Yeah, and, Jared Goff has been here before. He's done it. Went to the NFC Championship game with the Rams and went to the Super Bowl that year. I believe it was 2018 they did that. And, hey, you got to give all the credit in the world to Detroit. And I agree with you, man. I think Detroit is going to win it too. I don't know why, and I'm getting a little scared off that too because I feel like a lot of people are saying that. But something about the Niners just doesn't feel right to me right now. I don't know what it is, but something just seems a little bit off. I mean, they were trailing that entire game against Green Bay and just managed to pull it out in the end. And I feel like Detroit is just on a really hell of a roll right now. So, I think the Lions are going to have their first ever Super Bowl appearance. And that's going to be crazy, right? I mean, you got to give it to the Lions and the Lions fans for all that suffering paying off if they get there this year, right?
Yeah, you got to give it to the Lions and Lions fans, especially with how maybe the economy has been going in Detroit. I mean, we all know about how that. I just feel like it's got to be a feel good story for the people of Detroit to have something that they could be happy about with everything that's going on in there. That's just got to feel happy about that. Plus that I know our good pal Dave Landau is happy, and I'm hoping he gets to see it. He'll get to see a championship.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. I mean, they haven't won a Stanley Cup in 15 years. They haven't won a World Series since 1984, and they haven't had a Super Bowl ever. The last time they won was the NFL championship game back in the day. I want to say 1963 was the last time they won. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
been a
yeah, yeah,
long time coming, man.
yep, exactly. The last time they won like that, like I said, the precursor to the Super Bowl, that was pre-Super Bowl era. That was pre-merger with the NFL and the and AFL that led to the what's known as the modern day NFL. That predates the modern day. Well, yeah,
Oh,
you're
sorry about
there.
that. I'm here.
I was
I'm
going
here.
to say to put into context, that's a couple of years removed potentially, but if I'm correct, if my math is correct, from when the official when when the merger pretty much happened of
Yeah.
the two rival football leagues that form the NFL we know today. So
Yeah.
that's how
Well, the
far
Super
back you
Bowl.
got to. That's how far.
Yeah, the first Super Bowl was 1967, and the merger didn't happen until 1970.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like predates that. Even though I guess you could say the kind of the merger happened with like the first Super Bowl, because from what I when I read about that, the merger kind of was like already on track the moment they came up with the Super Bowl. But
Oh yeah,
but yeah,
but like
another.
still technically, technically the Jets have only been to one Super Bowl, but they've never been the AFC champions. When they won it in 1968, they're the AFL champions. So at that point, it still was a little murky until they switched over to the AFC in 1970.
Yep, it is. But that's hard to believe that you're that 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 technically your guys that won Super Bowl was essentially pre-modern NFL.
Yeah, right. That's how long it's been.
It's like,
Us and the
like kind
Toronto
of
Maple Leafs going back to 1968.
yeah, which I think far back you can going all the way back to like the Nixon administration, and the moon landing was just something that was it still was like in the planning stages still. Like it hadn't
Yeah.
even happened yet, to put it to context.
January 12th, 1969, the Jets won the Super Bowl, and man walked on the moon July 20th, 1969. So it was over 7 months before we actually walked on the moon.
Yeah, yeah. That's a far back. And if my history is correct, I think the Beatles were still together when the Jets won that Super Bowl. Am I correct?
Yeah, the Beatles didn't break up until 1970.
Yeah. Like that's how far back. Like the that's how far back you guys could go the last time you guys won a Super Bowl. The Beatles were still together. That's crazy to think. Think that's how far back you got to go for that.
That's the Jets, man. That's the Jets. You can't say that about the Knicks though, because the Knicks won in '73, and they and the Beatles broke up 3 years before that. So, so let's keep rolling along here as I want to take a look at the AFC Championship game now, as the Chiefs, great game against the Bills on Sunday night, man. We didn't get to cover it though, but 27-24. Amazing game. Heartbreaks for Josh Allen in Buffalo, and just a terrible way to lose the game. But the Chiefs hold on. They go to another AFC Championship game. This time, the first one ever for them on the road. Chiefs at Ravens. Baltimore hosting its first AFC Championship game since 1971, when the Raiders were visiting the then Baltimore Colts. So a little history going there too.
Yeah, that is as far back. But I just gotta say about this game, my gut feeling says that the Ravens are gonna win this game, and I feel like it's gonna be might be a defensive it might be a big defensive stop, and just one big offensive play. I feel like is just gonna play a factor into the Ravens winning this by probably a small margin. I feel like, and hopefully,
Yeah,
I gotta say something to the Baltimore Ravens. You have one job, and that's to keep the Super Bowl Taylor Swift free. to save us from having to see shots of Taylor Swift in her luxury box in a I think it's what is it, Allegiant Stadium that we in Las Vegas where the Super Bowl's going to be.
Yeah.
You have one job to prevent us from having to be seen that a million times during the Super Bowl, having to see Taylor Swift in that evil-looking smile of hers. She just has this evil. Doesn't she have this evil look on her face lately? You notice that?
I didn't notice that it was evil, but you know what, Dan? Going for the Chiefs, though, I can see what you're saying. I can see it.
Yeah, she just has this. I don't know. She just has this evil look. Like it's like one of those things where you got these these females that are these I don't know how to say it, like she's just got this evil look that I'm surprised she hasn't been casted as a.
Are you calling her a succubus, Dan?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, like she could play the. I feel like she could play the role of a succubus in a movie. I feel like.
Oh my God! I didn't think we were gonna be talking about this today, but you know what though? When you talk about Taylor Swift, nothing's really off the table. And yeah, man. So you think right now, you're saying that you think that the Ravens are going to win this game. Is it going to be? So we're talking a Ravens-Lions Super Bowl right now. That's your thought process?
Yeah, yup. That's what I'm predicting. We're going to see a Ravens-Lions Super Bowl matchup with where literally in a city where that's full of gambling, you could and a game that you could pretty much bet on just about any little thing that could possibly happen at the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't know if you remember this. One year, remember that Janet Jackson incident?
Yeah,
I don't know
2004.
Yeah. Did you get to see it? You saw it live also because I saw it live.
Yes, I saw it live. Yeah.
This was like one of the first times we had like a DVR. This was like one of the first times we had a DVR, and I decided, and my mother noticed it. She noticed it, and out of curiosity to be shocked that something like that actually happened, got caught. Just out of shock that actually got. I couldn't believe that got caught on camera. Like I would not expect that to get caught on camera, even if it was accidentally or whatever. I hit the rewind button to see if that's what was seen, and I could hit pause, and holy shit, that somehow that got caught on live TV. I don't know with potential. I kind of believe the wardrobe malfunction based on like the description of the outfit and supposedly what was, I guess, during the performance, what was supposed to be done. Like it seems like Justin Timberlake was supposed to like make people think that he pulled off, but it wasn't. Might have been. I've heard stories about wardrobe malfunctions. Like he just wanted to like make people think that, and then it wasn't. But there probably was a wardrobe malfunction. But it changed. It changed how the sports broadcasting, the delay in a, how a lot of broadcasts are in a delay. It changed the delay, and I feel like it's kind of the reason why when you're, and I noticed it more ever since that incident when I'm at a Met game, and I've had the the radio feed of the game. I noticed the delay was bigger because it was maybe a few seconds. Now it's kind of a moment, a moment behind. Like, you see, like, let's say a home run happen, and then a little bit afterwards, you hear the call of that home run happen.
Yep.
Yep. I feel like that delay. Yeah, I just feel like that delay has happened as a result of this. Well, the following year, when Paul McCartney was performing the halftime show, there was. And get this, I was laughing at this because actually one of the things you could prop bets you could bet on a Super Bowl, Paul McCartney pulling off his shirt. You could actually bet on if that was going to happen. As silly as it is, you were actually able to place a bet on whether that was going to happen or not. As silly as that was.
Oh, you could bet on anything, to be honest. You could even bet. They bet on the length of the national anthem now. I remember Gino, the great Gino Visconti, was placing bets on that, and yeah, I mean it's crazy the amount of betting. And you know what? As a matter of fact, we should definitely we'll be doing a Super Bowl special, right? I think Dan will do a little Super Bowl bonus episode maybe before the Super Bowl, and we should definitely discuss a lot of the funny prop bets they got going on there, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a couple of jokes I can make, of course, depending on the Super Bowl matchup will determine what jokes I'm probably about to make on this, because I'm waiting for the Super Bowl matchup before I make any of these jokes. But you can kind of see where I'm gonna go there with some of these jokes. But yeah, I feel I'm already predicting some of the things I'm sure you could place a bet on. And leading up to the Super Bowl, we will be going over some of those prop bets you could go probably even if you're attending the game, because the Super Bowl is in Las Vegas, so you could easily go to a casino the day before the game and place bets on the game you're attending if you're attending the Super Bowl in Vegas, which by the way. Very true, and I'm pretty sure you could bet on the amount of drunken, disorderly cases handled by the police department of Las Vegas after the Super Bowl.
I'm sure that'll definitely be a prop too. So I agree with you on the NFC Championship side. As you know, we're both in agreement on the Detroit Lions, but I do think, I don't know, man. I don't trust the Ravens yet, and the Chiefs are a proven thing. I just feel like the Chiefs are going to find some way to win this game. So I'm going to be taking the Chiefs. You're going to be taking the Ravens. We both got the Lions, and I'm hoping you're right, because I don't want to see the Chiefs in another Super Bowl. But I don't know. It's tough to pick against them at this point. But yeah, let's keep it rolling along though, Dan. And I want to take a look at we'll look at our MSG teams right now. I want to start off with the Knicks though. Got to give it to the Knicks. Me and you were talking about that painful Rangers loss last night before the before it went live, but we also have to mention just a great job by the Knicks. Coming back last night, 32-18 fourth quarter run to get this victory, 108-103 over the Brooklyn Nets. Fourth straight victory, and they're 10-2 since the OG trade. Man, you know, even when they're not playing their best, the Knicks are still finding ways to win. Brunson and Randall dropping 30 points a game. Tom Thibodeau is pressing every right button now, right, Dan?
Yeah, I just feel like the Knicks are going to I feel like they're already setting up to go on one heck of a Cinderella run during the playoffs, I feel like. I just feel like this is a team that people are I feel like they're just sleeping on, not realizing how good of a team this Knicks team's going to be. And I just have this gut feeling that we could be seeing a summer like hopefully like that spring and June of 1994. We're watching a playoff run for both teams in the Garden.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely setting up that way right now. You know, an interesting thing in the NBA too is that one of the teams that the Knicks are going to have to worry about if they go on a playoff run is the Milwaukee Bucks. And the Milwaukee Bucks just hired Doc Rivers as their head coach mid-season. So an interesting switch there. You know, just one other thing to worry about in the Eastern Conference. But, you know, hey, we've been saying it ever since this OG trade too, that hopefully it should just be the prelude to a bigger move at the deadline. And hell, I mean, right now, if the Knicks, they're 10 games over 500, they're playing great ball. And, you know, if they're able to make one more splash move, because when I look at their roster and I look at the Knicks rotation, it looks like it's just, I mean, everybody's playing phenomenal right now, so you have to give them that. But I feel like they're one player short in that rotation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I feel like that, and I just have a gut feeling that Donovan Mitchell's going to be that guy he's going to come here to the Knicks. I just have a gut feeling this time it's going to happen, and I just I just can't wait to see how this one turns out, because this will be the first time I feel like the Knicks just have this bona fide team that I feel like every championship team has that star player and has maybe one other star player that they just managed to build around that star. Like I feel like, and
Yeah,
it's shaping up for that. And it'd be
yeah, no
great to
doubt about
finally
it.
see for once. Yeah, it'd be great for once to see the Knicks finally get that piece for once, because
Yeah,
we've
and
seen
they
so many times
they've
we fall short on it.
they've added Brunson, and he's taken a lot of the load off Randall. And if they could get somebody to now take the load a little bit off Brunson, then we got a three-headed monster, just like the everybody in the NBA sets out to build. The Nets tried it a couple of years ago with obviously everything that they had going on with KD and Kyrie and James Harden. That didn't work out, but the Knicks with Brunson here and Randall, and I mean, hey, if they're going to bring in a guy like Donovan Mitchell, like you said, or maybe this different guy that Leon Rose can find at the deadline or something like that can kind of fill that role. You know, we'll see what's going on there. But either way, right now, with the run the Knicks are going on and the way they've been playing since they made this trade with Toronto, they're only putting themselves in a better position. I mean, they're 10 games over 500, and in the NBA, the NBA is not like baseball where you see teams, take off, at certain point, or like where you see teams, if you're in the upper echelon of the league, like, 1, 2, 3, those seeds, yeah, those guys are going to start mounting wins and building up. But the rest of the league usually stays around 500 until late when everybody starts pulling away and making their playoff push. But so that for the Knicks to hit this 10 point, oh, I'm sorry, this 10 game over 500 point at this point in the schedule, that makes me feel really good about this team.
Yeah, exactly. So I just feel like this is just the most exciting Knicks team I've seen in ages. So I
Yeah.
just feel like there's gonna be a lot of hoops and hockey playoffs going on in my living room, viewing in my living room coming around that when it gets to that time.
Yeah, man. Well, you mentioned the hockey, and I've been holding my nose since last night because to get the stink out of that loss. But let's chop it up right now and see what's going on. Rangers lose 3-2 in overtime at San Jose. San Jose was 1-26-2 heading into the third period. Went trailing heading into the third period, and now they're 2-26-2 because they came back. They erased the 2-0 lead, took the game to overtime, and won it. Just a horrific loss for the Rangers, who have had a lot of them lately. And this has not been the one thing that I keep hearing from Rangers fans is it's just one game. They're still in first place. They're still playing good overall. Let me show you this, Dan, because this is a very, very telling stat. So the Rangers started off the first 22 games this season 17-4-1. Since then, the last 25 games, the Rangers are 12-12-1. They've been nothing more than a 500 team. Now, I understand that injuries have accounted for a lot of that. Capo Caco has missed a lot of time, and they've had guys filling in. Filipito's been out and still is out. Adam Fox missed 10 games in that time. So they have had a lot of injuries to deal with. Nick Bonino was down. But 12-12-1 is not an aberration. This is what we've seen, a 500 team for the last 2+ months. And something has to change, Dan. I don't know if the Rangers have to make a move, like, make a little trade to try to because it really looks like, too, the lack of top-notch, high offensive scoring is really coming back to bite this team in the ass. Swinging and missing. I like Lafreniere and Kako, but those guys have not played up to their draft position. And right now, it's really killing the Rangers, to be honest.
Yeah, I just feel like they need to make that move at the trade deadline without a doubt. They need to make that big splash at the trade deadline. Also, I feel like late in games, they need to avoid the late in games of teams being in there having to be on their goalie too late in the game. I feel like that's the worst part, and they need to cut back on that scoring close together. We've seen last couple of games. I don't know if you noticed that. Like we give up we give up two goals within seconds. They need to cut down on that. And
you're right. One other play. Yeah, I'm sorry.
And I got to say about this game, I was at I kind of had to. I couldn't really stay up to watch the whole game because the sunrise hours I work at my job, even though it's a short walk from my house, so maybe I could kind of sleep a little longer because I just have a short walk to where I work. Loading the truck, loading the UPS trucks. But anyway, I come back home the next day. I had the rest of the game because I fell asleep somewhere halfway into the game, and I'm watching the rest of the game when I come back home. Right, eat my post-work breakfast, watching it. I was upset. I threw an empty water bottle on the TV, and thank God that water bottle was empty because I cannot express how much damage that I would have done to the TV because of how these TVs are, how modern day TVs can't take a beating. That TV would have been damaged if that water bottle was not empty. And I think even that empty water bottle could have done damage at this rate with how sensitive these TVs are these days. I'm surprised my TV survived that because I threw an empty water bottle at the TV. So upset I was. Well, it was just a plastic Poland Spring bottle. You threw it at the TV. I was upset.
Well, Dan, one guy that was making me want to do that too last night was Mika Zibanejad. And, I got to say, this is one guy that I think has to be called out. I like Mika a lot. Mika's been a great player for the Rangers. He hasn't been having as great of a season this year, but, let's be honest. On that final sequence in overtime, he got penalized, right? There was a guy, they knocked the stick out of his hand. It should have been called a penalty by the official, and it wasn't. But the thing that really pisses me off, aside from the bad call, even worse, was the fact that Mika Zibanejad, let's not forget, it's overtime. It's 3-on-3. So Mika Zibanejad gets a stick knocked out of his hand, and he goes over to bitch to the official rather than going to pick his stick up and finishing the play. That cost the Rangers the game because then you have the wide open guy on the left side of the net. Boom, he puts that in. Game over. Shesterkin was hung out to dry. There was nothing he could do to stop that puck. So Mika Zibanejad cost the Rangers the game by complaining to the official.
Yeah, there is no place for that in overtime. It is not. It's not time to get into an argument with the Zebras. That is if you. You got to move on quickly from that bad call. You got to. It's like all focus has to be on that game, on what's going on in front of you when it's an overtime because of that.
Yeah, especially against a team like the Sharks, where you have to win that game. The Rangers only getting 1 point against that garbage team was just terrible. But I actually did feel good for David Quinn, the former Ranger coach who's now over there in San Jose. I feel like a lot of Rangers fans don't like him for whatever reason. I thought David Quinn was a pretty decent coach here for the time he was here. Let's not forget he didn't have the most talented roster. It was a bunch of rookies for the most part, and Artemi Panarin and Zibanejad. And so I got to give credit to David Quinn. So I'm sure he felt pretty good after the win last night, but I know us Rangers fans didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I got to say about David Quinn, I wonder if he's related to Colin Quinn because he's kind of got that smile, that smile that Colin has.
I
Doesn't
can
he have
see
that
that.
same
I can see
smile?
that.
Doesn't he have that same
Yeah.
smile? You know what I'm talking about that smile that Colin has. He's got that.
Yeah.
He's
Let's
kind
get
of got that
this.
smile
I hear you.
that
I
I kind
hear
of
you.
want.
Definitely
So
see
I
that.
kind of wonder if I wonder if he's related to Colin Quinn because he's got that
It
same
could be that.
smile.
That's a good call. That's a good call, man. Um. So yeah, but I mean, we got now on Friday, just to finish up here. Friday is the Rangers and the Vegas Golden Knights at the Garden. They played. These two teams played a week or two ago, and the Golden Knights smashed us in Vegas, 5-1. So you really got to hope that coming off a horrific loss to the Sharks on Tuesday night, that the Rangers are going to be coming out flying tomorrow because, knowing in the back of their minds that they got smacked by the Golden Knights 2 weeks ago, knowing in the back of their minds that they blew that game against the Sharks the other night, this is the Stanley Cup champions coming into your house. You better be up for the task, right?
Yeah, I just feel like we better be on all cylinders. I hope the fans are on all cylinders for this game, and I feel like the Rangers really need to shorten up on the turnovers to really win this game. I feel like the last time they played, I feel like they just didn't shore up that and you really against this team against the Las Vegas Golden Knights, you can't be giving up goals like back-to-back goals, unanswered goals within seconds against this team. I feel like so it's like that kind of mistake will they'll I mean you pay for against this team. I feel like so they really have to shore up those parts of their game to win this on
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, you're definitely right, man. They're going to have to be on all cylinders going into that game. And Dan, speaking of that, we're going to be going on all cylinders next week. We're going to be doing episode 100. We're going to be taping it on January 31st, but it's going to be coming out on February 1st, episode 100 on YouTube. We're going to have a special guest that we just confirmed today. We're going to make the announcement on social media in the next 24 to 48 hours. So stay tuned to our newly verified, our X profile, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, BSith_podcast. And that's
Yep,
pretty
that
cool. We're verified on there now, right?
yeah, and because the show's account is now verified, and the blue check, and because of the blue check mark, is why the reason that I was trying to debate what team gear I was going to wear today. I just decided to go with the Rangers and have an appearance, but because I like when I'm at a Rangers game, I'm referred to because of the Broadway hat as Broadway Bobo. So I felt like it's kind of we kind of need an appearance for Broadway Bobo today because of the blue
Hey,
shirts, the blue check mark.
very cool, man. I like it a lot. We got the blue check mark. We got the blue shirt. We got the Broadway hat. Broadway Bobo is in the building. We're going to have a special guest in the building next week, so please stay tuned to our social media and check that out. But Dan, real quick before we get out of here, do you have anything you'd like to plug for yourself?
Sure. I got to plug my Twitter account Bobo1003NYC that you see there on the screen. Give that to follow. Don't forget also to follow me on Instagram Bobo718DK, which is also the same handle I go by on Treads. Also on YouTube, it's one word, Daniel Curlin. You're gonna get to see a video that a lot of the people that are watching this that have early access, that subscribe to our Patreon, got early access to. It's gonna be on YouTube tomorrow. Our little video, our little adventure, being on our trip to New Jersey. What it was like, or I guess you could say our trek to New Jersey, because you kind of had to take quite a bit of public transportation. Like I kind of felt like we were like that. It was like in the movie The Warriors, the way how we got to the dojo of comedy in Morris, New Jersey, where Dave filmed the show. How we got there, it felt like that. And I made this video documenting that trip out there. And there's a little cameo from Dave and Roy made a cameo in this video because I show a little footage of us, like as they're getting ready for the show, and you see us there in the studio before the show. We do a little video, so it was just a lot. It was just a fun video, and I really hope everyone who watches that video enjoys it. And do not forget to click like that video, the thumbs up on that video, and don't forget to hit subscribe on my YouTube. And let us know what you think of it. Also, when you do watch that video, there is a link in the description to the very episode of the Eastside of the Davey Max Sports program that we were on. So you'll be able to find that episode if you haven't seen it already. That episode, do watch it, and do watch the Davey Max Sports program. Got to give a shout out to our friend Eastside Dave. Definitely do watch his show. He does a wonderful job on that show.
Absolutely. Always make sure to check Dave out. As Dave had us on his show 2 weeks ago. Definitely amazing episode, amazing time with the great Davey Max Sports program. So check that out. Subscribe to Dave's stuff. And thank you everybody for tuning in and supporting us. If you want to support us more, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Best Seat in the House podcast. Only $5, and you get all of our thoughts on NFL, the NFL post season and the Super Bowl and everything coming up there. Bunch of extra content as well that we frequently update. So thank you so much for the support. Check us out. Check me out on Twitter @KramerNY and the newly verified account BSith_podcast. And don't forget us on Instagram @Best Seat in the House podcast. So thank you once again, everybody, for tuning in. For my co-host, Daniel Bobo Curlin, I'm Rob Kramer. This is the Best Seat in the House podcast. I will see you next time.